Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I am your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Tom Fletcher. Tom Fletcher is a sports broadcaster who has been an innovator in the industry. Tom has been inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame as part of the 2023 class. In addition to broadcasting, Tom is the founder and CEO of Fletcher Sports. Fletcher Sports is a new genre in sports broadcasting. The organization created the remote control camera. Tom Fletcher also has 5 Emmys for the application of the robotic camera in sports broadcasting world and his world-renowned dedication to the adoption of electric cinematography. Tom Fletcher is also the director of marketing of the optical device division of Fujifilm since 2016 and is the co-founder of Momento. Momento is a digital fan engagement platform for sports and live events that captures every fan in high-quality imagery during the most exciting moments of the event. Hello, Tom. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Tom Fletcher?
Success over my career has meant a lot of different things. Certainly, the financial success is always one, but to me, I gain a lot of motivation and a feeling of success when my college friends, my high school friends, my neighbors, like, oh, your camera is the camera they used on the Chicago Bulls. During the NBA Finals, we did the camera on the bottom of the scoreboard, and everybody in Chicago, which is where I live, was watching the Bulls game, and it's like, wait, you created that? Like, and I have people to this day, they think that's all I do is just that one camera. Oh, you still do the camera on the bottom of the Chicago Bulls, and I think that's the only place that we do it. And I have to explain to them, no, we do that, and we do tons of other cameras throughout the NBA and the NHL and Major League Baseball, and we open an office in London for the Olympics, and we do 5,000 sporting events a year. It's not just the overhead camera at the Chicago Bulls, but that personal satisfaction of having my friends see my work really is a motivator to me, and seeing that we're making a change in how sports broadcasting is happening on a day in and day out basis.
I love how you bring out too that it drives you and it is a motivator when your friends get to see your work. Because a lot of times, for example, if you're a doctor, your friends can't go and see you inside the operating
Right.
room or might be able to see the surgery or how that affects that person's individual life. So I think that's one really cool thing that you really get to be like, this is what it does. You get to enjoy this. And I'm glad you're enjoying it because of the thing that I was able to implement. Tom, for you, kind of like you just mentioned, and we'll go into that a little deeper after this question. But for you, you've had such a growing career, not just with what you've done, but also the fact you've continuously thought outside the box and challenged yourself. What made you get into broadcasting, and how did you personally know you have found what you're passionate about?
In college, I was a still photographer for the University of Illinois student newspaper and then our yearbook. And that allowed me to go to every Big Ten campus for a football game. I went to, you know, uh, every campus, and it's a lot of fun to go to different college campuses when you're in college and have it paid for. Not a huge expense account on a student newspaper, but they still paid for the trip, paid for my hotel, and then afterwards, my father and I started a business and to service the motion picture and the television news business and the sports business. And we purchased a remote control camera device called a hothead, more to service the motion picture business. We rented it to a movie called Backdraft that shot here in Chicago, a Ron Howard film, and another movie, Prelude to a Kiss, And we did a variety of motion picture work, but we did not have raging success at that time with it. And I saw sports as a more consistent revenue position, that there's going to be 41 home dates. There's going to be 81 home dates for baseball. And the money was just more consistent. And they just, were open to my ideas of saying, hey, let's put a camera here. And again, my still photography background allowed me to say, wait a second, still photographers are putting a camera behind the backboard. I know that camera technology is getting smaller and smaller. We're going to be able to put a camera behind the backboard and replace that still photographer. The still photographers don't always still like me because I took their camera position, but they really were the ones that inspired me to say, okay, let's put a camera here. They can do it for still. I think we should be able to do it for video. And that's how we did the behind the backboard. That's the above the rim shot. There's a classic Sports Illustrated shot of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar grabbing a rebound, looking straight up into the rafters, and that overhead camera angle is a phenomenal cover picture. And we wanted to emulate that, and we basically decided to put the camera on the shot clock. And we did it for a Big Eight, the Grade 8 tournament here in Chicago. And my guys, my operators had no idea how popular the shot was going to be. And they put a Fletcher sticker on top of the backboard. Now today you see advertising on the top of the backboard, but they just put a Fletcher sticker because we put Fletcher stickers everywhere. And at halftime, I got a phone call from the ESPN executive saying, you get your guys to take that sticker down during halftime because it's in every shot. And the league immediately, the NBA saw that this was going to be a popular shot, and they standardized on. For a long time, they had just the URL of the team, and that was a lot of fun of creating that shot.
And I want to call it what it is at this point, because you are not just a storyteller, but like I mentioned earlier, you are an innovator. And a lot of fans watching sports at home or in a stadium, because we have the jumbotrons, owe some of what they get to see due to you. And I want to go through quickly for the audience some of the remote cameras that you have created through Fletcher Sports and that you have conceived and introduced that are above the rim in basketball, behind the backboard in basketball, behind the net in hockey, in the net in hockey, center ice speed shot for hockey, the center scoreboard camera in hockey and basketball, low home in baseball, the dugout cameras in baseball, the goalpost in football, the speed shot in auto racing. I mean, you name it. You've been in that sport and you've created the camera that we get to really watch those angles. What was the light bulb moment for you that as you transitioned into different sports arenas, for example, from basketball to football, that you said, okay, why isn't there this remote control camera here? How can we put it there?
The light bulb moment really was that 1991 year. We did the Stanley Cup that year. We did Pittsburgh and Minnesota, and then moving it and putting it in basketball. I went to the not before the NBA finals, but the Bulls played the Pistons, and I spent the entire game looking at the bottom of the scoreboard and how the horns were, and then I walked down to see, okay, could we mount our camera to there, and how would this work for basketball? And I knew Mike Fratello loved to telestrate, and it would just be a tool for him to be able to telestrate. That really, I would say, was the light bulb moment, that really moved our company along, because basketball, Michael Jordan was playing, Magic Johnson, one of the highest rated NBA finals. And it really raised the awareness, and every sports broadcaster that did basketball and hockey wanted the camera. And one of the, again, from a success standpoint, one of the key things that we did was, I said, okay, everybody wants this, but not everybody could afford it. So I said, this is just like the Goodyear blimp. The Goodyear blimp costs a lot of money to do, and the broadcaster gives Goodyear a few pops, and everybody knows that that camera angle from the blimp is a Goodyear. It's the Goodyear blimp shot. So we did the exact same thing with the bottom of the scoreboard. We went out and we got upper deck trading cards to sponsor the camera. And in the early 90s, we were installed in Chicago, New York, and LA. And 3 to 4 times throughout the game, they'd say, from our upper deck camera, we see Michael Jordan driving the lane. And we gave the feed to the out of town broadcasters, and we built relationships with them. Relationships are always the key to any business. And being able to go to every Bulls game, first of all, and see Michael Jordan night in and night out is certainly a dream. But more important to us was as we were going in and we were building relationships with the out of town broadcasters that were in covering the world champion Chicago Bulls, and that was really a key moment for us.
I love how you bring up the fact that relationships and building those relationships is a key to any business, because it is so true. Once you build those up, you really can elevate and grow as a business. For you, how did you try to, build those relationships in real time while juggling building your business up? Because a lot of people would say, well, I might not have time to build the relationships up because I have to grow this part of the business. How did you look at that and how did you juggle it?
Well, with any organization, it's by far not just me. It was a whole team of people, and in my case in particular, there's one individual, Dan Grange, who really had a real business mind. I'm more of the idea guy, and he had the business mind of how to make this successful. And the two of us made a good team, working together of coming up with the idea. He would make it work, but then he also would help on the business side. And the two of us worked the relationships. The NBA and the NHL used to have broadcaster meetings where they'd bring all the broadcasters together, where we'd talk about the issues of the day. Are we going to show the anthem? Are we going to not show the anthem? Or how are we going to deal with the referees being able to call penalties? How are we going to deal with the new technology that's being implemented throughout the league that affects every broadcaster night in and night out? And being in those environments, Dan and I did a really good job of building those relationships with all of the different broadcasters, and and just took advantage of it. The broadcaster meetings were really important, and now there's a company called Sports Video Group that really has picked up where the NHL and the NBA and Major League Baseball don't do their meetings anymore, and the Sports Video Group has really filled that void, bringing everybody together to talk about new technology, to meet, because Fox and CBS and ESPN and NBC, they all compete. They want to be the best show, for football, and they want the audience to say, this is America's game, and this is we're the number one rated show, or we're the team, we're the network that the fans love the most. But at the same time, when they get into those environments, they're facing the same issue. They're facing rain issues like we had in Baltimore a few weeks ago. They're facing cold weather like they had in Kansas City and in Buffalo recently. So it's a community feeling of everybody going through and getting and solving problems, but that also is a way that spreads what we're doing. So when we do a good job for Chicago, New York, and LA, and they say, yeah, these guys are good guys, they do what they say they're going to do, the equipment works night in and night out, that's important. Yeah. So relationships, they just keep returning dividends. The more you invest into them, the more they're going to give back.
And I think that's so true, because it's something too where you get to hear things like you said with that group and having these meetings, the things that are working well. And as you're growing as an individual, maybe it's as a broadcaster or with the cameras, you're also hearing where the gaps are. Where
100%. That you're touch. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you hit a key point. Um, is when we're on site, our operators. Dan was originally our operator in Chicago. He did all the Bulls games for the first 3 seasons before he went to more of a managerial role. And we're there night in and night out. And the engineers say to us, "Hey, you know what? You guys should get into the super slow mo business because the trucks aren't going to buy this technology, and this technology is really about to take off. And we need a company who's going to invest into that." And it was that tip that really got us started into super slow mo. And Fletcher today, they own 90% of the market of super slow mo in the world. And just to clarify, you mentioned Fletcher. We sold Fletcher, so I'm not there. That's why I'm referring to them as a they. I'm still at sporting events all the time. I was just at the game in Dallas this past weekend, and I see Fletcher gear all over the place. And it still warms my heart to see the Fletcher stickers all over the place.
What is that like, creating such a powerhouse of a company, innovating the sports industry, really selling your company, and then being at events and seeing the stickers and seeing the legacy that the organization you've really created is continuously making?
Well, it just drives me to do it all over again. That's what an entrepreneur likes doing. Is that we did it the first time, and the first time I did it with my father. My father and I started the business together, and he was really good at borrowing money. And he came from worked for Westinghouse for a number of years and went through Westinghouse management program, and he really knew how to run a business. I had the ideas and said, okay, everybody's going to want this camera angle, and we need to build this camera angle. What's really fun for me now is the shoes on the other foot. I'm now working with my son on a new business called My Memento. Uh, that we're capturing every fan in the moment they're celebrating. So you go to a sporting event, it's like the roller coaster ride, but for sports. So you get off the roller coaster ride, you can see the picture of you screaming and yelling and making fun of mom and dad, because they got scared, but we're doing that for sports. We have cameras. We're installed in the Seattle Seahawks and Lumen Field. We're installed in Seattle Kraken and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And when there's a goal scored, a touchdown, a big interception, whatever the big moment, we fire those cameras, and every fan can get a picture of themselves in the moment. And the fans are hungry to replace the physical ticket because they don't have that anymore. And so every fan can get that commemorative picture. But it's that ingenuity of trying to come up with it. This time it was my son that came up with the idea, and I'm the one that's the money person helping grow this business. I'm not as good at borrowing money as my father was. My sister's involved with the business. She's the one that's good at that.
And I want to touch upon that some more because I think that's such an amazing growth and journey too of, like you said, now wearing the other shoe. When you started out, it was you and your father, which anyone who works with family, especially if it's father son, mother daughter, father daughter, whatever the dynamic might be, it's such an interesting dynamic sometimes of
Right.
going into business with a family member. And now you've done it once as the son, and now you're doing it as the parent. What are some things now and even then that you've taken away? And as you're going into this new business entity with your son, you might go, okay, I like doing these things with my father, how we approach these things and communicated. I want to do it like this, or I want to try this new. And how do you handle that? Especially being on, you've experienced both sides of it.
Well, uh, the thing I like about it now is that my son is the one doing the long hours now, and the heavy lifting, both literally and figuratively. He's pouring his heart and soul into making this business because this is what he wants to make his name for. Um, and it's fun to sit back and watch. The same thing that happened with my father and me is I remember going to NBC Sports when we first started, after the 91 NBA finals. We went to NBC Sports, and my dad was about my age. I think he might have been a little bit younger. I think he about 57 years old. And we went in, and the first few questions, they would ask my father the questions, and then I would end up answering. And then they quickly turned to just asking me the questions and not asking him the questions. And the exact same thing is happening today. And even now I'm coming in as a sports broadcasting Hall of Famer, and somebody who's done a lot in the industry. People recognize that, but it's really rewarding as the father to watch that they do the exact same thing. They literally they just start talking to Austin. They'll email Austin, they'll CC me, then they stop CCing me, and they just deal with him. And I love that. And he's driving it, very similar to how I drove the business in the early days, and then me and Dan grew it into a great business. Um, um, it's a lot of fun to see that.
And I want to go into your legacy a little bit
Mhm.
because as as we've mentioned a few times now, you are part of the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame, and you've created such a legacy with the remote control camera, what you're even doing now with your son, with this company, and individuals being able to walk away from an experience they have paid for with more lasting moments than those real shots. What have Looking back at your legacy, because the word legacy can mean a lot of different things and impact people differently. When you look at what you've done personally and professionally, what does your legacy look like to you? And what do you hope people see as part of your legacy that they might not always think about when they think of the name Tom Fletcher?
I think the thing I hear the most, the part that I enjoy the most is people say he's a good guy. He's a man of his word. So much of the motion picture and sports business, because we also had a motion picture side of our business, and we're pretty innovative in that side as well, with electronic cinematography, bringing that to the forefront. But uh, I'm somebody that people say that they can trust, and he's a nice guy. He's a man of his word. He does what he'd say he'd do. Um, Certainly all the robotic cameras. That's when you go into a bar. I love playing drinking games with my friends. Okay, let's drink. Let's drink whenever one of our camera angles come on the screen. And a lot of my friends still don't completely understand how many different camera angles we do. And I'm like, oh, that's a Fletcher. That's a Fletcher. And again, the company has evolved since we've sold it. They now do the pylon cams and the cameras at the first down marker. Those are incredible technologies, but that ingenuity of coming up with new camera angles, um, Fletcher has just continued to keep doing. So that creating that culture of creating new ideas. I frequently joke and say we're just like a drug dealer. We need to literally give the broadcaster this new camera angle, let them see it until they take camera 7, and then they cut it into their show. They don't realize how much they're going to like it, and then now with Twitter, you get some more instant feedback from the audience, and that again is rewarding. Whether it's coming from my friends or coming from Twitter, that really makes me feel good.
I love that. And with that being said, what are some things that you would like to leave the audience today with about thinking about the impact you could be making today or long term? Because I'm assuming when you started in the industry and in sports broadcasting, you never thought you would be inducted into the
No,
Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame, create all these cameras, now being able to work in the industry that you love so much with your son.
what I you're asking, from an advice standpoint, what do I suggest? I would say, you need to build your network of people, and stay in touch with them. I remember early on in college, one of my friends, his father was the number two guy at the Chicago Tribune, and I went in and I had a meeting with him, and he gave me some good advice. He liked me, and I never followed up with a letter at the time. That's the way you did things, and I really kicked myself that I didn't keep that relationship going. If I had to go back to my young self, I would say, hey, you need to stay in touch with John Madigan. He's an important man, and he's going to help you in your career. So my advice to people today is you get a relationship, take that and build on it, because they'll take you to somebody else, and they'll take you to somebody else, and then never forget how you got there.
Thank you, Tom, for all of your insight today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It was such a joy having you on and talking about your journey with you. And a few of our key takeaways from today's conversation include: take your experience in one area, challenge that thinking, and think about how you can implement it in another area. For example, how Tom mentioned in the very beginning, that still image and him loving photography. It was, okay, I know how they're getting the angles. How can we make that a moving shot? Why can't we do that in the moving shot? As well as relationships is the key to business. Like Tom had said throughout this whole show, building those relationships and really collaborating as well is so important. It's also being able to hear the feedback and the challenges people are seeing on that front line that you might not be able to see, that really sets the light bulb off and can put you on a trajectory that you didn't even think of, as well as create the culture you want to see in your environments. Like Tom said, it's going in, solving those problems, making it friendly when he's going and talking to people, and also showing them how easy their role can be by doing certain things or using certain cameras. And lastly, stay in touch with the people that you connect with. I think that's such an important aspect, is understanding that it isn't just about the here and now. It's building those relationships, keeping in contact, and then turning around and, just keep in touch, because you never know who you're talking to today, where they might grow, and how that can be beneficial for both of you down the road. This was a great episode with our top notch guest, Tom Fletcher. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.